Hello and welcome to Wednesday Words. And today we're talking about interrupting appropriately. Now, if you followed last week's Wednesday Words, you know that I talked about listening well and how to listen, top techniques to learn to do this. And I do believe that communication flow, conversations work incredibly well when we understand how to listen. But building on this topic, I'm going to talk about how to interrupt, because clearly there are situations sometimes when we do need to interrupt. We need to come into the conversation and somebody's in the middle of speaking. For example, it might be that we need to ask a question to clarify something. It might be that they've misunderstood something or making an assumption, which we need to correct, because actually that's going to help the conversation continue. And so it might be appropriate for you to come in and to interrupt somebody in the middle of speaking. Now, this is obviously much easier face to face. I think we all get more of a sense when we can see people's faces clearly, see their facial expressions, their body language. We can even hear sometimes the breath they take just before they're about to say something, and we stop because we realize they're going to interrupt us. But this can be so much harder in virtual calls. And I'm sure you've experienced this. People talking at the same time, stopping suddenly, and then starting again at the same time. And that really interrupts the conversation flow and the flow of the communication. So how do we best manage this? How can we make it happen? Well, I'm going to share today some top ideas about how to interrupt appropriately if you really need feel that you need to do this. And I'm also, as a bit of a bonus area, going to talk about how to prevent interruptions, because that's quite important as well. There are moments sometimes when we really want to stop the other people from coming in because we're right in the middle of that thought and we haven't fully explained what we want to say. Okay, so let's start with the interrupting. Okay, so I believe that there are three key ways that we can do this, which is about doing it in a respectful way, and of course, indicating politely that we want to come into the conversation. It's just like when you drive your car. If you do drive a car, you have indicators, right? So that shows to the other drivers that you're about to come in, maybe come into another lane or turn left or turn right. So that might be a good way to think about this. We're trying to indicate to the other speakers that we want to come in. So the first way that we can do this is we can ask a question. And that might sound like we're asking permission to come into the conversation. And that's just a very polite, respectful way to do this. Some examples of this might be, can I contribute something here? Or may I just come in and add an extra point? So we kind of ask that question before we then continue with what it is we want to say. So that's one technique, the questions. The second technique is all about politely interrupting. And we use usually some sort of phrase to indicate that interruption is coming. So that might be something like, sorry to interrupt you, but can I add an extra view on this? Or, excuse me, I'd really like to share some different data on this particular topic. So we use phrases like sorry to interrupt or excuse me as ways that we're indicating to come in to interrupt the conversation. And then the third area, which I really, really like, is all about building. And building is really important because what we're doing is we're acknowledging that we're listening. We have been listening to what's been going on. And we want to kind of add to the conversation, not from a different point of view, but adding to it as it kind of goes up. So, for example, we might say something like, I think that's a really good point. And, looking at it from this angle, I can also see these benefits. Or we might say, yeah, I can hear where you're coming from on this. And, I also can see it in our area that this is an important point. So what you do there is you're really building on what's been said And that creates great communication, even though that you're interrupting, because you're kind of validating and you're creating extra resonance in the conversation that you're having. So there you go, the 3 techniques. You have the questioning, you have the politely interrupting, and you have the building on the conversation. But what if you want to prevent interruptions? Maybe you're the person speaking and you've got a really important point to say, and you don't want this person or other people to come in and perhaps change the topic or add their perspectives. Maybe you just want to finish what you're saying. And clearly we can indicate that as well. So we could say something like, can I just finish this point before you add yours? Or, I'd love to hear your feedback after I've shared my view. I think that last one is particularly nice because I think it's really about the fact you're looking forward to hearing from them as well. And of course, if this is a virtual call, the other way to manage the conversation is to make sure that you tell people there'll be time at the end of the call for any other points, any other business. And sometimes that's enough for people to know, for them to wait and hold on to their points, that they don't feel that need to interrupt you in the middle of the conversation. So there you go, some top ideas about how you can interrupt appropriately if you feel the need to do that, and also how to prevent interruptions if you are feeling like you're not fully able to express what you want to say. I do hope you found these useful. And if you haven't gone and watched my other episode, which is all about listening and top listening techniques, then I'll put a link down below for you to watch that or listen to that. And I think this is a really good complement to today's topic. I really appreciate you joining me today for Wednesday Words. We share lots of ideas, tips, techniques all around communication skills and how to be a more confident communicator. If that's an area which is particularly interesting for you, then I really encourage you to download my free ebook, which is 8 Keys to Communication Confidence. And I'll put a link down below there for you to access that completely for free. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Victoria Reynoldson, Communication and Culture Coach. See you next time on Wednesday Words.